So you can't see this, but hopefully you can hear it. Behind every Boise State Public Radio podcast is a team working hard to bring you stories that matter. So if you value podcasts like this one, please support them. Hit donate at boisestatepublicradio.org. Thanks.
It's The Connector, Idaho Daily News for Thursday, January 30th. Good morning. I'm Troy Oppie from Boise State Public Radio News. A ban on mask mandates from public entities is again in the Idaho Senate. Plus, one lawmaker thinks the governor of Idaho should have veto power over citizen initiatives. Public notices from governments will continue to appear in local newspapers, and Idaho school districts respond to nervous parents after the Trump administration ruled that schools and churches are not sensitive places from immigration enforcement. Those stories and more this morning on The Connector from Boise State Public Radio News. Last week, the Trump White House threw out rules saying federal agents could not make immigration arrests in sensitive places like schools or churches. The new directive has left some parents in Idaho concerned about what this means for their children in schools. Giselle Salas has more.
The Jerome School District with the Jerome Police Department posted a letter to the school community addressing potential misconceptions that might make parents scared to send their kids to school.
We understand that there's concerns, there's fears. We just wanted to make sure that they knew that education was important, safety, number one priority.
That's Federal Programs Director for the district, Kim Likely. Under the Federal Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, student information is confidential and cannot be released without consent.
We never ask about documentation status. Students show up at our door, we enroll them, we educate them, we help them meet their goals, and we hopefully graduate them.
The Jerome School District and the police department said they can't release students to someone not listed on an emergency contact list. The only exception would be if a warrant was produced. Other districts have sent out similar statements, including Boise School District. Its letter went out this week saying their students' information would be protected, and that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1982 that every child is entitled to free public education regardless of immigration status. Giselle Salas, Boise State Public Radio News.
To the State House now, where Idaho Republicans once again have the ballot initiative process in their crosshairs. James Dawson has the latest.
Republican Representative Bruce Skogg's bill introduced Wednesday would give a governor veto power over any initiative that didn't pass with two-thirds support. Organizers could try to override that veto 2 years later. Skogg says initiatives need more checks and balances to counteract a recent influx of money supporting the failed open primaries measure.
But there were so many lies that were out there, propelled by millions of dollars from out of state, some in state. I think this levels things out in a good way.
Democratic Representative Todd Achilles says extra oversight and campaign funding are two separate issues.
We did learn from the last cycle, though, that clearly money in politics does not buy winning initiatives.
The second proposal would amend the Idaho Constitution to require campaigns to get a certain number of signatures from each of Idaho's legislative districts. The state Supreme Court struck down a law in 2021 that did the same thing, calling it a, quote, tyranny of the minority, since any one part of Idaho could essentially veto an initiative. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
A bill that would establish a state website for official public notices, allowing government entities to stop paying to publish such notices in local newspapers, was held in committee yesterday. The requirement is estimated to cost public agencies in Idaho about $1 million a year. The state wanted to replace it with an online-only option. Newspapers already publish notices in print and online. The House State Affairs Committee voted 9-6 to put the brakes on the bill, though, over concerns that the state should not be responsible for publishing its own public notices. More from our James Dawson now, as the Idaho Senate will, once again, decide the future of a proposed ban on mask mandates.
House lawmakers have voted to ban public health districts, governments, and public schools from implementing mask mandates 4 times, including Wednesday. The bill sponsored this year, Republican Representative Rob Beiswinger, says the decision to use a mask to block the spread of disease will be up to individuals.
If you're at the gym, if you're at the grocery store, if you're in a hot air balloon ride and you want to put your mask on, you're welcome to do that. We will not stop that in any way.
Republican Representative Rick Cheatham, who's also a Pocatello City Council member, says the bill would handcuff elected officials down the road.
We pass a bill like this, and who knows what we may be facing in the future at the local level.
The bill now goes to the Senate, where similar measures have never gotten out of committee. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Blaine County Commissioners have signed off on a settlement with now soon-to-be former County Administrator Mandy Pomeroy. She filed a tort claim against the county 2 months ago. The Mountain Express reports Pomeroy will resign February 6th and receive 6 months of salary and benefits compensation, about $120,000, plus compensation for any accrued leave. The settlement was reached amicably, according to the agreement documentation. Both parties have agreed to refrain from disparaging each other and to cover their own legal costs. The settlement, though, is not an admission of guilt, the county specified. Pomeroy's tort claim was not shared by the county, deemed a personnel issue and not subject to public records. The Mountain Express previously reported people familiar with the claim said it was over problems in the workplace. The claim followed an anonymous letter that was widely shared on social media and in the community criticizing Pomeroy. County commissioners this week approved the settlement unanimously. If you were listening to Morning Edition yesterday, you may have heard that the nation's report card, a measure of math and reading skills for 4th and 8th graders, showed lower overall reading scores than 2 years ago and well behind pre-pandemic results. Math scores nationwide were flat, largely thanks to better test scores from higher-performing students, pulling up the average. Here in Idaho, only a small portion of students take the NAEP exam. 8th grade math proficiency in the Gem State fell to its lowest level in a decade, according to Idaho Ed News. 4th grade math scores were up. Both, though, beat the national average. 4th grade reading scores also fell to 10-year lows, joining the 8th grade reading rates, which were flat, but just like in math, Idaho's scores were slightly above the nationwide average. The NAEP exam is administered every 2 years. Proficiency rates on Idaho's specific reading and math standardized tests, which are given to more students but at different and more grade levels, were higher than the NAEP results. Thanks for listening to The Connector on this Wednesday morning. You can always find more on our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. Download our free app for your smartphone. Take us with you wherever you go. Search Boise State Public Radio in your favorite app store. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our general manager is Tom Michael. Have a great day.